everyone. My name is Laurie Smith, and this is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, the continuation. We're looking at the Survivor to Thriver workbook, and it's free. You can use it freely. You can download it from their website, www.ascasupport.org, and they don't mind people using it. Hi, Pasaju Alibello. How are you? I hope you had a good day. I'm just waking up here this morning. I'm trying to wake up. And that's a free manual. You can read it right from the website if you don't want to download it, sort of thing. You can get a hard copy from them if you want to pay a few dollars for the printing and the collating. And they just, they put it out there for free. I'm sure they don't mind people using it, as long as we don't say that I wrote it, sort of thing, or change the wording, or try to make money off of it. So, which I don't monetize my channel. So I'm sure they wouldn't mind us taking a look at it. We're almost through it, actually. We're on step 16. We started that yesterday. You can go back and watch that video if you want to. But we're going to pick up where we left off. And hopefully this will be helpful for you. This is information about, repercussions of child abuse, for adult survivors of child abuse. And it's looking at the healing journey, sort of a guide, so we can see what we need to work on. I used this manual when I first started my healing journey back in 2009. It's a long time ago. And I've actually looked at it many times since then, and used it, periodically for over 11, 12 years. So that's a long time. And it was very helpful for me. It really helped me to see what I needed to work on, things that I didn't even realize that I was doing, for instance, self-sabotage, things like this. And so I found it helpful, so hopefully you will too. And like I said, it's free. It's a free resource for people, right? So if you're sensitive to the topics of abuse, you might want to change the channel. It's early in the morning to be talking about abuse and the child abuse stuff. But I'm not going to get graphic here, and this is just it's a healing manual. So, but the topics of abuse can bother people. So you have to know what's good for you to listen to. And if you think the topic of this topic might bother you, just change the channel, because you won't be hurting my feelings. And if you are a survivor of abuse, you want to do a safety check first and make sure you're safe enough. Just ask yourself, am I strong enough to be listening to this today? Do I feel vulnerable today? Is this going to bother me? And I'm going to end up having a horrible day and possibly self-injure or hurt somebody else, or, this sort of thing. Just do a check-in and see how you're doing. And if you feel like it might bother you and you're just not strong enough to be listening to stuff like this today, you don't have, you just turn the channel, go do something else. Only you can make that decision for yourself. And you need to, because survivors of abuse can be triggered very easily by this sort of thing. So if you're not feeling really strong enough, you need to make sure that you are. Nobody wants to have a bad day just because they've heard something that triggered them. That's no good. So just be aware. And if you think it might trigger you, you can always just read the manual another time, or watch the video another time, or if you wanted to, whatever. And just keep yourself safe. That's the biggest thing. So we'll get right into this. I'm drinking coffee. I'm trying to wake up. I'm having a hard time this morning. I've been up for a while, and I'm still, okay, we'll get there. So bear with me. This is step 16 we started yesterday, page 103 of the PDF. And that's, I am strengthening the healthy parts of myself, adding to my self-esteem. And we looked at that first part. We'll pick up where we left off. While strengthening the healthy parts, you will also need to continue to resolve any feelings remaining from the past, especially those that make you susceptible to resuming old destructive behaviors. You probably have noticed that feelings related to the abuse last a long time, although you probably have more resources, internal as well as interpersonal, to deal with these feelings now. Certain situations can still evoke them. By now, self-sabotage should be an infrequent occurrence, as you are now aware of old patterns and able to stop yourself before you actually commit the destructive action. Likewise, you are better able to control your aggression, as you have refined new ways of coping with these feelings and learned to avoid or diffuse old triggering situations. So that's step 16, and there's 21 steps, and so we're heading towards the end of this manual. By this point, working through this stuff, this is where they figure that, anybody who's come along, far enough along in their healing journey would have already worked on a lot of stuff and are actually working at strengthening stuff, in our life that's helping us out to get through this stuff, coping skills, any number of things, right, that we needed to work on. So, or that I need to work on. Right? So that's where they're at here. And they have a self-help section. Number one, in your journal, describe both the healthy parts of yourself that you want to acknowledge and strengthen over time, and the less positive tendencies and behaviors that still plague your life today. Continue to focus your awareness on how these parts play themselves out in your life and what you can do to emphasize the positive ones while diminishing the negative ones. And that's kind of good to do. I sort of do an inventory like that in my head actually all the time because I can see where I'm at, like as far as my coping skills go, what's happening in my daily life, whether or not I'm making any progress or not. If I'm still reverting back to the old sort of patterns of the way that I used to handle things, then I know, oh, okay, I got to go do some work on this, whatever it is. Because months will go by where things are pretty smooth, and then it's like all of a sudden something will come up, and I start to revert back to some of the old patterns. And that's how I can tell, because I'm like, oh, okay, I see, I need to do some work on that. So it's kind of just recognizing these things and being aware, really self-aware of what you're going through and how you're dealing with it, how you're coping, whether we're still self-sabotaging or not, this kind of stuff. Um, I still have work to do, definitely. I had kind of a horrible week, like I said last week, started on Thursday, ruined my weekend. And it really wasn't even a crisis. It's just something that bothered me. I should have been more assertive. I should have stood up for myself a little bit instead of trying to be the nice person all the time and trying to, end up kind of getting kind of pushed around. And that's not okay. I need to work on my assertiveness, and because I'm the first one that says, we have rights. I have rights. I'm not that little child being abused anymore. I'm an adult in charge of my life. I have rights. I can stand up for myself, which I didn't do last Thursday. So this threw me into a spiral of feeling the same exact way I felt as a child being abused, and which really I just had a horrible weekend because I thought this is ridiculous. Like I'm 55, I'm in charge of my life, and I need to stop letting people run over me. Whoever it is. And this was a complete stranger, and I just wanted to be the nice person, so I didn't push back, but I should have because it's rude and it's not helpful for me to let people run over me. I need to be assertive without being abusive. So this is the issue. So it's kind of, some of these things can be hard. And sometimes until we see something come up, let's say, in our life where something will happen, we may not recognize that we haven't really worked through stuff. And it's like until we see that, until something happens to cause that reaction, whatever it is, we're like, oh, I had no idea I was still not doing so well in that department. It's like, okay, I guess I still have work to do. So this is the thing, it's kind of just being self-aware of what's triggering us or what's causing us to sort of regress in our healing journey a little bit. If we've made progress and all of a sudden we're like, something's not right. You know what I mean? It's like, wait a minute, I'm starting to feel these same feelings I used to feel. And it's kind of like, okay, what's going on? And I recognized it right away, actually, when it happened immediately. But I didn't do anything about it. And now it's too late. So it's kind of like, I need to watch that next time and stand up for myself. And we do have a right to do that. Actually, we should do that, stand up for ourselves. And it doesn't mean we're the bad person because we're standing up for ourselves. And this is where I have a problem with that because I'm like, don't like confrontation, period. I don't handle confrontation well. Like I've said several times on here. And that's what it would have taken. It would have been a little bit of confrontation. And I didn't want to deal with it. See? So I allowed myself to be basically run over. And I'm like, okay, that's just not okay. And it's nothing serious. It's just something that happened and ruined my whole bloody weekend. So now I'm feeling a little bit better, but it's taken me almost a week to get to feeling okay. You know what I mean? Whereas before that would have sent me down into a spiral of depression that would have been completely bad. And so this is the thing. I am getting better, but I just need to keep working on this stuff and keep holding those boundaries and making sure that they're set and making sure that my assertiveness stuff needs to be worked on. Keep working on it. Right? So number 2, are there people in novels, magazines, profiles, or movies who possess particular personality traits that resemble some emerging part of you? Write in your journal about the similarities of the qualities that you find so appealing. So people in our life or characters in novels, actors and actresses or whatever, who possess particular personality traits that resemble some emerging part of you. I don't do stuff like that. I don't really gauge myself based on other people, but I guess a person could do that. Um, because everybody's different. Everybody handles things differently. So I don't really pay, like I wouldn't have done that work on that. Because to me, it doesn't do me any good to do that because I don't gauge myself based on other people. So, but somebody else might find that useful. Number 3, gradually start to take on roles in your life that will allow you to use these developing healthy parts. Consider becoming a co-facilitator at ASCA meetings or signing on for a special committee project at work. If you're a parent, become involved in your children's school or extracurricular activities. These new roles will let you display your developing strengths and start to consolidate all of your recovery-related changes into an integrated whole, the new you, to present to the world. And I think that's important, actually. Not necessarily what they've suggested here, like becoming a co-facilitator at the ASCA meetings. That's something that, if you wanted to do that, that's what I did. But not everybody would want to do that. But it is kind of like testing out the waters. And this is what I'm saying. Until we test the waters, we don't really know, if we're making all that much progress or not. And so it is good to challenge ourselves. I know that I do challenge myself with different things. And then I can see kind of what I need to work on, how much progress I've made, what I still need to do, but it does help to kind of, I think in any situation, to challenge ourselves. Otherwise, we're just sort of sitting stagnant and, lifeless. And that's no good. You know what I mean? Because we need to grow. That's kind of the whole idea of being a human being on the planet anyway, which most people don't think about. It's the fact that, I didn't want to stay stuck in that old way of being, even though I say, I have to be okay with myself at the end of the day, but also I need to challenge myself, to make progress and and it's hard. It's hard to do these things because it's like sometimes we don't want to challenge ourselves. We just want to coast for a while. And it's like, I think there's you have an opportunity to go for something, to challenge yourself, to grow as a person. Why not? And I've done that before in my lifetime. And like lately with COVID-19, I'm just trying to survive, but like everybody else, right? We're all just trying to survive. But after COVID-19, I mean, who knows, right? I am going to definitely try to challenge myself, so that I can grow as a person and as a human being on the planet, right? And because I don't want to end up at the end of my days not having tried things just because I didn't want to challenge myself, and not do things just because I didn't want to, you know, sort of push myself, right? So this is the issue. It's because it's up to me. Nobody's telling me what to do. I'm the adult. I can do whatever I want. So I can sit back and just let the world go by, and or I can get involved, right? And so I think that's kind of what they're saying. They're get involved. If you have children, get involved in your children's, lives. Get involved find something you like to do. Share with people what you like to do. I think that's really important. And because then you're sharing that new, that, I don't know if it's a new you. They keep just throwing the new you thing in there. It's kind of like showing the world that you do have these amazing strengths, and because we all do, and that they're worth sharing. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. So I mean, we all have gifts. All of us have a gift of some sort. You just have to find out what it is, and then share it. Because that's what makes the world an interesting place, right? Otherwise, it's pretty boring. So it's kind of like, no, share your gifts. Find out what they are. If you have children, get involved in their lives. That's always a good thing. I wish my parents would have cared about me in my life. It's something to do. I'm not a parent, so I can't do any of that. But what I do what I can with what I have, and that's as good as it can really be for the time being. That's all we can really do. But it's kind of doing what you can with what you have at the moment, and making the best of it, because that allows people to see, you know, sort of like they're saying, the healthier parts of yourself, instead of hiding away behind that old wall that we built for ourselves years ago. If you did put up walls because of the abuse sort of thing, it's like coming out into the light and saying, here I am. And let's get busy and do something cool. You know what I mean? Life does. We do have to make the choices for ourselves, and these good choices for ourselves on what we're going to do with the rest of our lives. After abuse, right? And so this is kind of the time to do it. Is after when you're towards the end of your healing journey and you're starting to feel pretty good and kind of like, yeah, go out and build those relationships and look for your goals and dreams to come true and work towards it. Right? That's pretty cool. The professional help section, this is page 104. They said, number one, if you continue to experience problems in your intimate relationships, this may be the time to consider entering couples therapy. With all of the changes you've already made, you and your partner may greatly benefit from seeing a couples therapist, even for a brief period of time. So that's if you're in a relationship. At this point, many interpersonal problems are largely habitual and reflexive, and can easily be changed with the help of a good referee. Still, because you are in many ways a different person than you were when you started recovery, you may need to restructure or redefine certain aspects of your relationship. Discuss this issue with your therapist and ask him or her for a referral if necessary. As a rule, it is better for you and your partner to see someone other than your individual therapist so that the relationship work remains separate and there's a minimal chance of the therapist favoring one partner over the other. And number two, if sexual problems persist, you may want to consider seeing a specialist in sex therapy to resolve old associations and fears that may have become habitual and that may be affecting your sexual relationship. You may also want to read any of a number of books to give you more information about the methods and goals of sex therapy. Some survivors give up their sexuality when they reach this last stage because there are so many other positives to fill their lives now. However, you need not limit yourself and your partner in this area. You can reclaim your sexuality for yourself and your partner, just as you reclaimed your childhood. If you need additional information or referrals, speak with your therapist. Number three, with your therapist, review thoroughly your behavior and the kinds of situations that challenge you to draw on the changes you've made. Use the discussion of these situations to pinpoint where you were successful, where you may have faltered. Look for new situations in which you can continue to practice those new behaviors that may not yet have become instinctive or comfortable for you or to you. So this is it. It's kind of just this is the stage where we can start really seeing if this stuff is actually going to work. All the stuff that we've been working on, whatever it is in our lives. And it's like I said, unless we're paying attention, we're not going to recognize a lot of it. So we have to be kind of self-aware all the time of how we're handling things. And if something sets us off or triggers us, then that's a point to actually start making some journal notes or really to start thinking about what triggered me, what caused me to react the way that I did or whatever. Because I have all sorts of reactions based on how people treat me. I think we all do as human beings. And then I have to decide how I'm going to handle that. And for me, I'm a passive person, so I don't really like aggression. I don't like abusive behavior. I didn't like being abused as a child, and I don't like it now. And I don't like to be an abusive person, so I'm very passive. So in that, I need to learn how to be more assertive to get my needs met, right? Without becoming abusive, obviously. I don't want to be an abuser. So that's the last thing I want. So that's why I choose to be passive. But the thing is in that, then I still need to get my needs met. Right? So these are, I can tell when something's triggered me immediately to how I'm feeling about it. What my reaction is, and so then we can really solidify this stuff. This is towards the end of the healing journey process where it's like, okay, I can change this. I can make these changes. We're only human after all. You know what I mean? we do make mistakes, and things are going to come along that are going to push us. And it's kind of like, how are we going to handle it? How are we going to deal with it? It's important to figure out how we're going to deal with it before it actually happens. How am I going to handle when I need to assert myself? So I need to go through and maybe do some practice. And for me, that's my issue right now, seems to be. And because this last year's proven it, I've had to really work to get any kind of assistance and help because I'm not a pushy person. So for even pushing for my own rights is difficult because I'm like, oh, well, then I think, no, make the call. Force them to do something for you. You can't just sit here and just let people just blow you off. You're a person on the planet too. I'm always having to tell myself this stuff because it's like, I deserve help just like the next guy, the next person over. Doesn't matter who they are. I deserve the same kind of attention and help, right? So this is where I'm at. I'm always having to reinforce that and talk myself into actually making another phone call to get help because it's like I tend to get just kind of pushed off because I'm not all that assertive, see, very passive. So step 17, page 105. This is the next step up. I can make necessary changes in my behavior and relationships at home and work. I can make necessary changes in my behavior and relationships at home and work. This step challenges you to learn new interpersonal skills to replace old maladaptive ways of relating. Like many survivors, you may never have learned these basic skills that are normally taught in a well-functioning, healthy family. As a result, your relationships may be suffering. In order to create more fulfilling relationships at home, you may need to develop some additional skills in the more personal realms of parenting, sexuality, and intimacy. In addition, you may still be playing catch up when trying to relate to others in competitive or even cooperative situations at work. And this may result in discomfort, stress, poor work evaluations, and even failure to achieve desired promotions or goals. Assertiveness, listening, communication, assertiveness, listening, communication, decision making, negotiation, conflict resolution, and leadership skills are among the many skills that survivors may need in order to relate more effectively in both personal and work relationships. Because you didn't acquire these skills in your biological family, that's if the abuse took place within your family. You will now have to learn them and then adopt them as your own. With these skills available to you, you may find each day's tasks a little easier and more likely to yield positive results. With positive results comes more self-confidence in your abilities. So all that stuff's very important. Assertiveness, listening, communication, decision making, negotiation, conflict resolution. I mean, and even leadership skills. That stuff, for me, I had no clue how to do any of that stuff. And as coming up into my early 20s, 30s, I mean, I really had to work hard just to maintain any kind of relationship and to keep my jobs, and it's like very difficult. I had to really work hard to learn this stuff. I'm still, like I said, working on a lot of it. And I was almost able to keep a job. But the thing is communication. I mean, that's so very important. And for me, communication, I think, is probably my strongest point, to be honest with you. And listening, I think. Assertiveness, not so much. I need work in that. Listening and communication, I have no problem with. Decision making, I have definite problems with. Negotiation, I have zero ability to negotiate anything. Conflict resolution, no good at that. And leadership skills, not really, because I'm not interested in leading anything. So it's kind of like I don't want to be in charge. I like being the person that gets the work done underneath the person who's in charge. I don't want the responsibility of that. It's not for me. It's not my cup of tea. And so I'm not really a leader type, right? So leadership skills, who cares? For me, they don't even care. Um, but other people need them, for reasons, because their goals, their dream job, or whatever, they, they're managers. You need good leadership skills, right? And so not everybody has, the ability to do all this stuff. And, sometimes people, obviously, a lot of abuse happens outside the home and has nothing to do with this stuff. But it can also, even if a person was abused outside of the home, self-esteem and this sort of thing, issues can still arise because of this. For me, this completely fits what I went through because both of my parents were my abusers. Both of them were always trying to kill each other and trying to they were just determined to ruin each other's lives as husband and wife, my parents. And so they didn't teach us anything that we needed to know at all, except for hatred and how to hate people and how to hurt people and how to hate life and stuff. That's what I learned. And so it's been really incredibly hard for me to go back and try to learn all this stuff that I really needed to learn as a young person and watch these, healthy relationships from. I had to watch other people. I was talking about that on that video yesterday, was that, most of my information came from TV shows that were family oriented, like Little House on the Prairie and stuff, because I really needed to learn how people treat people decently and how it's supposed to work. So I was like, I had none of that going on around me, and I was just like, I need to see, this is what I want, that's what I want. And so I didn't want that stuff I was growing up in. And I also watched some of my friends' parents, which helped me out a lot because they were really decent people. And, they cared about each other and they didn't beat on each other and abuse each other. And they didn't abuse their children. So I watched them very carefully to see how they interacted with their children and their children, how their children trusted them. They and I saw that stuff on Little House on the Prairie too when I was really young. And I thought, you know, I need some good information here because I'm not getting anything. This is the thing. I just recognized that it was so different from what I was going through, and I liked it. I was like, hey, that's what I want. That's what I want. I want I want good relationships. As I got older, I realized like, yeah, I want to be able to have good relationships. So communication is really important in good relationships. Decision making is an issue for me. I've never been able to make a decision. Really hard time making decisions, and I'm sure that it's just from being abused as a child. And for me, it's always this fight or flight thing. But some big decision I have to make, it's kind of like I'm frozen, don't know which way to go, and it takes me a long time to make a decision. It's kind of like sometimes many years before I make a decision, and because I'm not comfortable making decisions. I just it's just not something I'm able to do that easily. Assertiveness, stuff like that. So that stuff's very important. Right? The self-help section, number 1, what professional or interpersonal skills or knowledge do you still need to realize your life ambitions? How can you go about developing these tools? Does your company provide training or other programs to help you develop in these areas? Have you ever thought of returning to school to get the degree that you once felt was beyond you? And this is the self-help section. So, we can sort of sit there and think, are there ways that I can learn this stuff, this assertiveness, communication, leadership skills? Does your company offer it, or are there free courses somewhere where you can get a hold of this? I'm always looking for free information, and there's tons of it out there. I'm really a good researcher. That's basically, I think, one of my strong points. I have the ability to research and resource all sorts of things, just because I can just track it down a little bit easier than maybe some people. And it's like I see all kinds of free stuff out there. I'm like, sometimes I'm interested in looking at it, sometimes I'm not. Depends on what I'm doing. I'm not really goal oriented, like a job oriented thing right now where I'm looking for a career. I'm 55, so I'm kind of like, I'm coming to the end of my career situation here. So I'm kind of just, I'm not interested in that stuff anymore. When I was younger, I was. And definitely, I did a lot of that sort of training stuff in my 30s, long before I started my healing journey. And, I had worked for banks, and banks quite often offered these little mini sort of courses on this kind of stuff, which were very helpful for me to see this stuff. Absolutely. But it still didn't help with my own personal stuff because I hadn't started my healing journey. So, until I actually got on that and started working through this stuff for my own issues, it didn't really, it didn't help in that area, in other words. But as far as communication skills and stuff like that, really, definitely. And all sorts of things like that. So there are free stuff out there you can get. Number 2, there are many books on the market that provide an introduction to the kinds of skill building that you may need. Read some of these books to gain background information on what the next step in educating yourself might be. Number 3, check with your local community college or university extension division for workshops and courses on the topics that you have targeted for yourself. Number 4, many work-oriented skills are transferable to your personal life. So make a list of the professional skills that you feel will also help you in your personal and family relationships. And number 5, consider taking a workshop or class that focuses on the personal relationship skills you want to refine. In addition to community colleges and university extension divisions, many churches, community counseling centers, and family service agencies offer these classes. And sometimes online, you can see all sorts of stuff like nowadays with the online world, that there's really interesting stuff out there that's actually even on YouTube here, where there's, people talking about this stuff that are professionals. And that's where I get a lot of my information, is just looking around for free stuff, because I'm always relatively broke. So I'm like, I can't afford anything that's too expensive. So really over $25. So it's kind of like, I have to look for free stuff, and there is actually a lot out there. You'd be surprised, right? And these are professionals teaching this stuff. So you just have to look around. Professional help. If you are still unclear about your career interests or goals, consider meeting with a career counselor who may use vocational interest and personality tests to help you narrow down your career and job preferences. As they work through their recovery, many survivors shift jobs or careers to find a position that better suits their newly developed personalities. And number two, you can always discuss career options and ideas with your therapist. Your therapist will be able to help you identify and prioritize your interests and learn how to realize your objectives. Since values, interests, and job preferences are intricately connected to your identity and personality, and these have been in flux up to now, it may have taken this long even to recognize your professional interests and aspirations. Number three, use your therapist to help you identify and refine those professional skills that can transfer to your personal life and relationships. That's true. I think many times survivors of abuse, of any type, I'm not always talking about child abuse on my show, but the issue is, I mean, any type of abuse, tend to have put that off because it's kind of like, life has been hard and, it was all about just trying to survive. And I was never really thinking about a career. And, at any point, truly, we really, with what we have, we can go after our goals, like just for instance, I'll use myself for an example. Like I was talking this week earlier that my dream, my goal in life was to have a bed and breakfast. I wanted to be a bed and breakfast owner because I like cooking for people. And I thought that'd be awesome to have a really nice bed and breakfast somewhere, like a beautiful area where people could come and stay and make some nice meals for them and, point them out in the right direction for tours and stuff like that. But that'd be awesome. That's kind of ideal for me. And now, like at this age, I'm 55. I've got no money. It's not looking very likely. You know what I mean? Um, I would never throw that goal away and say forget it because you just never know. Life is weird. Weird things can happen. It could happen. The issue is I can't really chase it to the degree that I'd like to. I'm just trying to stay afloat here and not be homeless, right? So that's the thing. It's got to be something realistic if you're going to do some sort of a career thing. It sort of depends on what you can do. You know, sometimes we don't have the we don't have the time, the physical strength, or whatever it is we need to do this stuff. I used to cook for a living in restaurants. I wouldn't even be able to do that now because my physical health, my my body just can't do that stuff anymore. But I did cook up until the age of 41. So my last job was a sous chef, which was really awesome. It was a dream come true for me to be able to be a sous chef and run a kitchen, and it was just amazing. It was just awesome. It was such a busy place, very popular pub here in Calgary, and it was great to be able to just prove that I could do it. I wanted to just prove to myself. I didn't care about anybody else. It's like, no, I just want to prove to myself that I can do this and do a good job, and that the staff would be happy. And it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. And could I do that now? No, I can't even stand on my feet for 8 hours. I used to be on my feet for 12 hours, 12 hours a day, from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, and sometimes from 6 in the morning till about 9 or 10 at night, depending on if somebody didn't show up for their shift. So I'd have to stay because I was a sous chef. So you got to stay and cook, and. So I used to be able to do that right up until the age of 41, work a 12-hour day on my feet, but I can't do it anymore. My body's breaking down, and I have to look at the physical realities of what's going on in my life. So we all do. We all need to do that. We shouldn't. We shouldn't try to go for something that we really can't do. It's like, there's certain things I'm just not going to be able to do. That's all there is to it. And so it's too bad. I'm going to try to, get a couple more years of do some fun things that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And, like I was talking yesterday on my show, go out, maybe do some horseback riding or something, do a rafting trip. Something I've been wanting to do for a long, long time, but my husband's health was so bad, there's no way he could have done it. He was terminally ill. And we were always just so broke. So I'm like, if I can manage it in the next year or two, that's what I'd like to do before my body completely breaks down. It's like, hey, we just have to do what we can do with what we have, right? With the abilities that we have. And that's the issue. But if you're young and you're just, getting going and, you're just starting out in life, you truly you're in charge now. You know what I mean? So if you're abused as a child, you don't have to keep going that same route of, self-sabotage and all of this stuff. You can start thinking about, hey, what do I want to do with my life? Certainly not, not what it's been in the past, right? We all have the choices to make, these really important choices of what we're going to do with our time. And that's where I was, so many years ago, especially when I started my healing journey. I'm like, look, I don't have to stay like this. I can get help. I can have a good life, right? And that was so important to me because I didn't want the rest of my life to be ruined any further than it already was. And so now I'm learning how to play guitar. I mean, I really suck right now at it, but I'm still having fun. It doesn't really matter. It's the issue that I'm enjoying learning it. It's fun, and it's not. I'll never be, a Jimmy Page. But the thing is I just enjoy playing guitar, and I like all sorts of different types of guitar music. So um, there's just myriad to choose from, to learn. So it's just amazing. I'm having a good time with that. And I like learning stuff, so I look for free stuff to learn all the time. Whatever I can do. It's kind of like whatever works for you, so that you can feel like you're doing something that that's meaningful, that means something to you. You know what I mean? Go out and do it, because life is too short. And if we just came out of if you were abused as a child and you're just coming out of this horrific stuff, and you're like, as an adult, you're like, wow, does it always have to be this? Is this all there is? No, this is not all there is. There's a whole world out there, man. And we have to do what we can with what we have, like I'm saying. It's not like I can just expect that in 2 years I'll be a bed and breakfast owner and have all my dreams come true. But the issue is I could still find enjoyment in life, and I can still do things that I find are fun, that make me feel good, and build up a little bit of confidence, or whatever these issues are in our life. You know what I mean? It's just start working towards a goal. And, especially if you're young, goal stuff is very important. Start setting those goals. That's what I do. I set small goals, short-term goals, because I'm not looking for longevity. So it's kind of like, I'll set like little short-term goals, and I'll be like, I'm going to try to do that. 6 months, the next year, whatever, because it's more attainable, and it's some. And then once I actually attain that and finish it and do it, then I'm like, that just solidifies. Hey, I can make a goal. I can make a plan, and then follow through with it. And it's a good feeling. It's like, yeah. And then I get enjoyment out of it, because whatever it is, I set it up for myself that I'm going to learn this new thing, or I'm going to do this, or whatever. So yeah, life doesn't have to be all horrible all the time. That's where I was coming from abuse, because my mind was filled with so much horror, and not just from my place, but just the stuff, just watching my family disintegrate around me, and then watching the people on the earth, the problems, and always thinking about this horrible stuff. And life doesn't have to be like that. You know, we only have this one shot here. This is it. It's one opportunity. And if you were abused as a child, it's really unfortunate. It never should have happened, because it's not okay. It never was. It's not fair. What's fair? What's fair about people abusing any child, right? There's nothing fair about it. It's not okay. You know, but we then have to make these choices so that we can have a good life. It means getting down to business and really working on this stuff. And it's like, okay, I want to have a good life, and I want good relationships, and we have to figure out what you want as a person. I did it. My stuff has nothing to do with money or career stuff or anything like that. It's all about I want peace in my life, and I want good relationships with people. And I thought, well, if I want peace in my life and good relationships with people, I need to do some work. You know what I mean? And so I had to do work. I had to do a lot of work. And it's like, until we actually sit down and do that, things aren't going to change. We have to change the way we see ourselves, change the way that we see life. If you've come from abuse and, that's all you knew growing up, you have to change the way you see yourself and the way that you see life. And, and then start to enjoy it, because it's a shame to ruin your life. I mean, I've watched people do it in my own family, just go to their grave, never ever having any peace in their heart, never even knowing who they were, never even having any enjoyment in life. They go to their graves like that. And I'm like, that's tragic, man. There's no way I'm doing that. No way. And I start, it's been a long haul. Like I said, I'm 55 now. It's taken me quite a while to get to this point. But that's okay, because I figure if I live another 10 years, this is going to be 10 years that much better, because I'm setting these little goals and I'm working on this stuff and I'm not being abused anymore and I'm taking care of things, as best I can. So this is the issue, we have to be in charge of our adult life, right? And not let the past destroy us. And that's hard, I know, because I did it myself. But until we work on this stuff, that past is going to keep coming around, whatever the issues are. And they're going to come around and they're still going to come around and kick you in the ass. And that's not okay, because none of that stuff was our fault in the first place, right? It's never the child's fault. Never, ever. Abusers do what they do, and the children are the innocent victims in the situation always, right? So none of it's fair, you know what I'm saying? But the thing is like, hey, I realized I had a choice to make. Was I going to continue to spiral down and destroy myself because I was abused as a child, or was I going to like reach out and get some help? It's like, okay, I'm going to do the right thing. Since nobody did the right thing on my behalf before, I'm going to learn how to do it for myself, and I'm going to start doing things that's going to set me up for a decent life. So whatever a decent life is for you, you have to make those choices. And go, and if you're younger, like I said, if you're young and you're just getting started on your healing journey, you go for those goals, you go for those dreams. And if you're older, you do the same thing too. We just have to be realistic about what we can do. um, it's kind of like, it is for everybody, right? But if you're young, you still have time to make those decisions, to get the ball rolling. And if you're coming out of abuse, you can start working through this stuff and deal with the stuff that you need to deal with, and then really start focusing on goals, what I mean, for yourself, which you may have never even thought about before because of the abuse, like I said. So, you know, just make, because life throws curveballs, I mean, I started when I went to cooking school, I wanted to be a chef. I wanted to be a certified chef with the American Culinary Federation or whatever it's called. And so I went to a certified school that was teaching their, methods. And um, it was at a time when women were not welcome in the kitchen still. This was back in the days when women cooks were not welcomed in the kitchen. Men didn't want women trying to, come in and usurp their positions. And so I never found a chef that would sign off my papers that I needed to have signed for this so I could get my red seal. But, it's really unfortunate, right? I was working towards a gold seal, actually, but I couldn't even get my red seal. So I decided at that point it wasn't even all that important to me. I'm like, that's okay, because I can still cook. And that's the proof, right? Anybody can have papers, but can you really cook? That's the issue. So I went out and I decided, okay, I don't care. I'm gonna cook and enjoy it, and have fun. That's what I did. And it really never was about impressing anybody. It was really about whether I could actually do it or not. So I did that in my 20s, but I had all sorts of goals that didn't come to pass, and life gets in the way, things come up. And so then I had to change stream and change, direction. And it's kind of like, I think allowing yourself room for that kind of stuff is important, because dreams sometimes do get changed or dashed, because certain things will happen in life. And then it's kind of like, well, that's okay, because where there's a will, there's a way. So, so that didn't work, whatever. I'll do something else, it's just, doing the best you can with what you have, basically, right? That's all you can do. And setting those little goals, like I said, having some dreams, nothing wrong with that. I still have my dreams, and I'm going to hang on to them too, like I said, because you never know, right? Life is strange, things can happen. So that's that step. And that's really that's about kind of, you know, like it says, I can make necessary changes in my behavior and relationships at home and work. And that's just going after, you know, going after your dreams and really going after your goals, right? Learning how to deal with this stuff. And I think that's great. Step 18, how much time do we have? 15 minutes. Okay. Step 18, I have resolved the abuse with my offenders to the extent that is acceptable to me. This is a big step for people who were abused as children. Um, you know, I've resolved the abuse with my offenders to the extent that it is acceptable to me. Many times people don't get the opportunity to resolve the abuse with their offender because the offender is dead or passed away or whatever, or they're around somewhere else around the world and nobody knows where they're at, sort of thing. So not everybody gets that the ability to actually confront their abuser, and not everybody would want to confront their abuser. So this step is sort of it's like a monkey wrench, and sort of when you think about it, you just come out of a situation where steps 17, you're looking at your career, and then all of a sudden you're looking at I've resolved the abuse with my offender to the best of my ability. It's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? That is such a huge step to be doing in the first place. It's all personal. Seriously, all of this stuff is. You make the choices, whether you would ever want to face your abuser or not. You know what I mean? And whether if it's going to be a helpful thing to do, or if it's going to send you back and be a horrible thing to do. You have to make that decision. And many times, like even if people have the ability to face their abusers, they don't, feel comfortable doing that. You have to do what's good for you. You know what I mean? Don't ever let anybody tell you, you need to do this. You know what I mean? It's like, no. You need to do what you need to do for you, right? So don't let people railroad you into this kind of stuff. Um, you know, you really, that's not cool, because some abusive people are also deadly people to be around. And you don't want to be putting your life at risk. You know what I'm saying? So they say this step involves making a decision about resolving the issues left over from your childhood abuse with those who abused you and or failed to protect you. And I mean, they say your parents abusers. I mean, this could be anybody who abused a child. I mean, it's not just parents. For me it was, and my family, familial abuse, but not everybody is in that situation. The important task in this step is to resolve the abuse with your family in a way that is acceptable to you. Like I said, there's talking about family stuff here, but we know that abuse happens outside the home. So whoever the abuser was, the important task in this step is to resolve the abuse with your family in a way that's acceptable to you. You have the right to choose how to do this, they said. It's not mandatory to confront your parents, family, or abusers, although many survivors find confrontation valuable. However, you want to maintain a relationship with your parents and abusers without hiding your recovery efforts or denying your new identity. As a recovered survivor, you probably will need to do something. And if there is to be a continuing relationship, your parents or abusers will need to accept you as you now desire to be accepted, with respect, consideration, and acknowledgement of the burdens you have overcome. That's such a huge step, for people. I know for myself, like my mom, I off and on had confronted my mom about the abuse, like I talked about in my video series, Born in Hell. I've written about it in my books, but I never really dangle it in front of her face because, what's the point? She knew what she did to me. She was okay with it. She was like, I know what I did to you. I'll do it again too. Come over here. My mom really she just, I laugh about it now, but I'm telling you, man, my mom was a tough cookie. But anyway, the issue is that, I mean, she knew how I felt about it too. And that was part of our problem. My other siblings would never say anything to her ever about any of the treatment that they got from her. So she was a little bit more lenient on them, because they weren't challenging her. And I was quite often, didn't like what she was doing to me or my siblings, so I would, sometimes say things which would get me in a whole mess of trouble, and even as an adult, if I said anything to her, it would set her off. But I didn't care as an adult. I'm like, look, you know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do now? I'm older. You can't beat me up. That's like, I'm just going to say it. You know what I mean? So I did talk, to both of my abusive parents about their behavior quite a bit, actually, over the years. My mom passed away when I was 30, and she had never changed. She was just as toxic as she ever had been. And my dad passed away in 2016 at the age of 96 or something. He was quite old, man. I cut him off in 2010, so 6 years before that. And he knew I was writing the books. He saw the book. I handed him a copy of A Life of Death and Redemption, the actual book. And I said, there it is, Dad. It's all there. It's all true. And now the world's going to know what you and Mom did. And he was just like, well, I don't know why you would do that. And I'm like, you know why? Because you abused us. You abused all of us, and so did mom. And I said, I did confront my abusers right to their face. But the thing is none of it was resolved. You know, never going to be resolved. My dad didn't care what he did either. And he didn't care what he did to his wife, and he didn't care what he did to his children. He was never going to see me any differently than he saw me before. He didn't care for any of his children. So that included all of my brothers and my sisters. So, it was never going to be resolved for me. I'm glad I got to say my say to him. And I like I said, I didn't want to be like my abusers. So I was actually really nice to him. And I just told him, I said, hey, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. I'm not going to your funeral. We set him up in this really awesome seniors place, me and my sister. And cushy, beautiful seniors place, the best one in the city. And I told him, I said, once you're settled in there, I'm cutting you off. So I went to see him about 2 weeks later. We were sitting on a park bench out in front of the building. It's really nice grounds. And I said, I won't be seeing you ever again. This is the last time I will see you. And I don't want contact from you at all. And will not receive any phone calls from you. Don't try to see me. And I'm not going to your funeral. Just so you know. I told mom I wasn't going to your funeral, and I'm not going to your funeral. And he didn't say anything. He was just like sitting there, this 90-year-old man, and I just got up and left. That's the last time I saw him. And I was totally cool with that. I'm like, absolutely, because he was never going to ever change. He was never going to apologize for what he did. And even if he did, he couldn't make it right. There's no way you can make that kind of stuff right. And so, I got to do that, confront my abusers. Not sometimes people, you have to be very careful doing that kind of stuff. And you also have to realize that they may not ever change the way they see you. They may not ever change the way that they treat you, just because you were on your healing journey. Because I was on my healing journey, my family was just like, and I told them, I said, I'm on my healing journey now. I'm not taking this garbage from any of you, the remaining siblings that I had, which was only two. And I just said, no. And they were really shocked. They were like, oh my God, you mean we can't like abuse you anymore? What? You're not going to let us run you down and treat you like a big pile of crap anymore? Well, this sucks. They were really upset about it. And I was like, bye. You're out of my life. And that was the best thing I ever did, let me tell you. Because they were never, ever going to see me any differently than that little, piece of crap kid that was deserving of all of that abuse that my parents dished out. This way they can feel good about themselves. See, we were just so much better than that little thing. You know what I mean? That's pathetic, but that's what goes on in some families, especially dysfunctional, mentally ill families. So I had to cut them off. You know what I mean? But they were never going to see me any differently, ever. And even today, my sister has not tried to console me. She's 5.5 years older than me. She was abused too, but you would think in that she would have felt this need to be a protective older sister and actually love that younger sister and be like, you didn't deserve that. Neither did I. And I got nothing from her. Nothing. So, no comforting, no, can I just come and just hold you? Can I just come and just like be that older sister that I really wanted to be, but I couldn't be? No, none of that. So I cut them all off, every single one of them. And I'm like, goodbye, have a nice life. Because I'm certainly going to now that you're not in it. And this is great. This is what I'm saying. That was the best decision I could make for myself. And so, but you have to make that decision for yourself, whether you want to still continue on, if you are in a relationship with some type of relationship still close to that abuser, whoever it is, you have to make that decision for yourself. You're the only one that can do that. And whether or not you want to confront them or not, that's truly up to you. Don't let people tell you that you just have to do that or you should do that or anything like that. You have to make the best decision for yourself, what you need to do, right? That's what I did. And some people will be like, "Oh, you shouldn't cut your family off." I mean, it's like, why? They're abusers. You know what I mean? I don't want them in my life. They're horrible. Like, no, I want to have a good life, so I had to get rid of them. It's like, okay, off you go, do your thing. Be toxic to somebody else. I'm not taking your shit anymore. There you go. That's what it came down to. Like, no, I'm doing a good life. I'm gonna have a good life. And when I go to my grave, I'm gonna go to my grave, like I said, with my head held high. I'm like, yeah, I win. My victory. Praise God. So I'm happy. Let me tell you, I really am, because I no longer allow them to run me down, berate me, threaten to beat me up still at the age of like 50. It's like, no, no more of that. You know what I mean? No, no, we're done with that. And I'm thankful. My husband, before he passed away, was very happy for me because he couldn't stand my family. He was just like, good for you. you know? Now they're put in their place. They can't hurt you anymore. I'm like, that's right. No, such a good feeling to know that my abusers can't hurt me anymore. That makes me really, really happy. And so, as an adult, that's why I'm saying it's so important as adults coming from child abuse, we need to actually make those decisions, whatever they are, that we can have a good life. You know, we so deserve it, and we so really need to push for it because nobody else will. Or certainly our abusive families or abusive people around us aren't going to push for us to have a good life, right? Abusers don't want that. So what I'm saying is we have to be our own best advocate. Whatever you need, that's what you go for. You know what I mean? But this step for a lot of people is important, and they want to confront their abusers. And so they go on to talk a little bit more about that. It's actually quite lengthy, so we'll pick this up, the rest of it. This is page 107 of the Survivor to Thriver workbook. We'll pick the rest of that up tomorrow and look at the self-help section and stuff. It's a little bit lengthy, but that's just so important for people to realize, like, you have to make the best decision for yourself, whether you'd want to confront them or not. I've heard horror stories from people trying to confront their abusers. You have to be really careful, and you have to think about the consequences, especially if that person is still violent, still threatening your life, this kind of thing. You want to be really careful about this kind of stuff, right? Is your life going to be in jeopardy because you're confronting your abuser? That's a big deal, because for some people it is. Some people have to hide still as adults, because the abuser's still alive, and the abuser, if they found out where they were, would kill them. See? And that's why a lot of people go anonymous with their stuff, because they don't want people to find out that they're getting help because their lives are being threatened. So this is the thing: abusers are abusers, and they quite often do kill their victims, right? So you have to be really, really careful about this stuff, and think about the consequences. What it's going to mean for your life. Is it going to be better, or is it going to make things worse? That's what I did with all my stuff, even writing my books, going public. I mean, I sat back and I thought, is this going to make things better, or is this going to make things worse? For me, it made things better, but for some people, it wouldn't. See, and that's why you have to really think about these things before you do whatever it is. You know what I mean? And weigh the consequences, do the pros and the cons. And then be prepared to kind of live with whatever consequences come. You know, it's a big deal. And this stuff, I mean, it's hard to do it. It's hard to deal with, right? So I guess we'll end the show now. I hope that you have a good day. I know all of us won't be having a good day. Like, that's just all there is to it. But I always wish people a good day. And if you're struggling and you're having a hard time, reach out and call a crisis line. Do not be destroyed by your past, man. Don't let those abusers win, whoever they were. Every day I wake up, I'm like, my victory. I'm good to myself. I'm having a good life. I'm doing the best I can to have a good life. And, my abusers couldn't kill me. They didn't get me to kill myself. I'm still here. They're dead. They're long gone. And I'm having a good life. It's totally my victory. I seriously want you to stick it out. Do not give up, my friends. Not ever. You didn't deserve that. Neither did I. And it's up to us to make those changes to have a good life, whatever that means for you, right? So take care of yourselves. And like I said, I wish you a good day. Thanks for being here with me, Passaggio Olivella. And I hope you have a wonderful night. Take really good care till the next time. I'll be on tomorrow, same time, same place here, at 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Have a good one. Bye bye.